Namaste, and welcome to this video on the mechanics of Kapalabhati and Bhastrika. Now, I did a previous video on the basic differences between Kapalabhati and Bhastrika, and I also had a discussion about the benefits of each. Today, I would like to focus on the mechanics, how it's done, because some people are still confused over this. And I have had some people contact me and say, well, there's more than one way of doing this because I disagree with the different kind of modifications that are being done with Bhastrika today. And I've had some emails, and one person said to me, over the thousands of years, there's been many different developments and there's been many different ways of doing Bhastrika. Well, I believe that what God has given me, I don't need to modify. That's what I believe. And given the fact that yoga was given to us by God, it was, Lord Shiva is a manifestation of God. Lord Shiva brought it to the world. I don't feel that what God gave me needs to be modified. And I think that's a big, big problem in our world today. We're taking nature and we're modifying it, and we're getting in enormous amounts of cancers. A case in point. Before the 18th century, there were very few and rare cases of cancer. The first cancers were discovered amongst chimney sweepers. They were contracting scrotal cancers. Later, it was users of snuff. The snuff that they used to use. They were developing cancers. As during the rise of the Industrial Revolution and throughout the development since then of the world becoming industrialized, the instances of cancers has greatly risen to the amount that we have today, about 1 in 3. 10 years ago it was 1 in 10. 20 years ago it was 1 in 20. Now it's about 1 in 3. So scientists have basically certified that nothing in nature can cause cancer, but modifying nature can possibly cause cancer. There's all this controversy around eating soya. Oh, soya can cause cancer. Soya beans don't cause cancer, but the minute you modify them, you extract them, so soya isolates are very cancerous. The minute we start modifying cow's milk by adding hormones, by adding drugs, it becomes cancerous. So the thing is, the foods that we process and we package, yes, can cause cancer. But nothing in nature can cause cancer. So it's just a little example of why the dangers of modifying things. And I don't see how Bhastrika can be done any other way. Because Bhastrika means bellows. Look at the bellows. Look at a bellows. You know what? Look up online, bellows. This is what a blacksmith used to use, right? This bellows. I don't know of any other way of doing it. I've seen people do this. That's very beneficial practice. We actually call that, in integral yoga, we call that the 3-part breath. That's a very beneficial practice, but it's not Bhastrika. I've also seen this when people do Bhastrika. That is dangerous. I don't know why people are tensing their shoulders when they do Bhastrika. It has absolutely no benefits whatsoever. And it actually could be dangerous. Why? Because prana is an incredibly powerful force. You're forcing this prana into the body. And the point of it is that you want to disperse this into the body, and you want it to go smoothly through the nadis, which are the channels for prana, through the nadis. If your body is tense, what's going to happen? Okay? So don't tense up your body, because you're going to restrict the flow of prana. So absolutely no way do I agree with that type of method. I do not agree with it, and I suggest that you don't do it. Okay? Now, I don't know how there could be other modifications for Bhastrika. I really don't. You can go at a mild speed, or a medium speed, or an intense speed. But there's really no other way of doing it. So be careful. Try to stick to the original yoga. It was given to you by God, and I don't think God is wrong. Do you? And I would rather trust God than man. We've seen all the mistakes that man is making, humans are making, so I would tend to trust God rather than I trust humans. So, what are the mechanics of this practice? When we were doing Kapalabhati, we are just using this part of the abdomen. So we're contracting from here. So it's a very forceful contraction just in this area. That is the other reason why it is also called the breath of fire, because this is the seat of fire. This is the solar plexus. This is the seat of Agni, digestive fire. This is where all the food gets cooked. So this is the center of fire. So by forcibly contracting, you are in a way fanning that Agni, okay? So you can start off slow. And then as you get comfortable, you can go a little faster. Now that is hard to do for a very long time because it really uses these muscles. And if these muscles are not developed, it's going to be very, very difficult to do. So one of the benefits of Hatha Yoga is to get the body ready to do the pranayama practice. And if your muscles in your abdomen are not that strong, it's going to be, especially the psoas muscles, the deeper abdominal muscles, it's going to be difficult to do this and Bhastrika. So go to my website and my channel, YouTube channel, and I do have a really good video on building the abdominal muscles. I highly recommend. That's what Hatha. It's on the second limb. You know, it's on the third limb. We have the yama, niyama, your moral code, then asana. And then you have pranayama. So the point is that asana is meant to get you ready for the higher yoga, which begins with pranayama. So if you have any bodily issues, if you have digestive issues, do stuff, Hatha Yoga, to take care of that. If you have weak stomach muscles that won't enable you to do this pranayama practice for a length of time, if you want the benefits, if you want samadhi, you have to do it for a long time. Go off and build up the abdominal muscles with Hatha Yoga, specific Hatha Yoga practices, okay? But don't get too much into the Hatha Yoga, okay? Because this yoga is not about the body. It's about the mind and the spirit. And it's through the mind, the mirror that God has given you, that you're able to perceive your spirit, your soul, or God. Without that pure, clean, stilled mind, you can't perceive that. So the whole point is to get the mind still and clean. That is the whole goal of yoga. The asanas, what young people are doing today is for circus performers or for gymnastics, but it is not yoga. It is a modern version of exercise, but it's not yoga. It's not the whole point of yoga. Because in yoga, we're trying to detach from the body. We're not getting into the body. We are detaching from the body. So the asanas are there for you to fix any physical ailment so that you can sit and do this pranayama. The fourth limb, which begins, this is when the yoga really begins. Okay? So, Kapalabhati is difficult to do for a long time because it takes a lot of muscles to continue with that forceful contraction. Okay, so but it is a very good practice to do to improve your digestion, to build up your Agni, and to develop those muscles. And I still do Kapalabhati when I do Bhastrika. When I start doing Bhastrika, I will start off with Kapalabhati just to build up that fire, right? And then I move into Bhastrika, because Bhastrika can be done for a long time. Now the difference between the mechanics of Kapalabhati and Bhastrika is that in Bhastrika, you are using all of these. You're using not only these abdominal muscles and the psoas muscles, but you're also using the diaphragmatic muscles as well. You're using this whole thing. So in Kapalabhati, you just Bhastrika. See my whole abdomen? So I'll just stand up and show you this a little bit, okay? You can see it, how the mechanics of this. Again, this is Kapalabhati. Now watch Bhastrika. See how I'm using this whole entire area. So the air is okay, you see that? All right. Now, it's much easier to do Bhastrika for a long time than it is to do Kapalabhati, because the Kapalabhati is a lot more intense with this. It's a lot more, whereas Bhastrika is much more flowing. You can do that all day long. This is very easy to do. I can do this all day long because I'm breathing in and out. Like a bellows. Look at the bellows. So, how can you do this differently? I don't know. Apparently there are different ways of doing this. How? No, there is no different way of doing this. You can do it mild, medium, or intense. Now, what do you do after that? What's there to do? The next thing you want to do is start working on retention. And retention is really when you really get the maximum benefits of this practice. Because the whole point of pranayama is to increase the prana, to increase the level of prana in your body. Prana is God's breath. God is both manifest and unmanifest, right? Purusha, Prakriti. These are the two aspects. Purusha is the unmanifest. Prakriti is the manifest. So in reality, the entire universe is God's body. It's the manifest form of God's body. So the universe is God's body. The air is God's breath. When God created Adam, some of the myth stories of the first creation was God took clay and formed a human. And to give it life, he breathed into. If you've ever been around a person who's about to leave the world, you'll notice that when they die, the breath's coming out of the body. That's when they leave the body. There isn't actually any death. There's no death. You just leave the body and you hear the breath leaving. So the more breath you take in, the more divine you become, right? The more you infuse your body with this life-saving, life-giving prana. So retention, the whole point of retention is to raise and expand this prana throughout your system, right? Because you want to get it coursing through all the nadis, the thousands of nadis in the body, and clean up all those blockages and those granthis and stuff that's causing lack of health or pain or other issues. So once you have mastered Kapalabhati and Bhastrika, and you're very comfortable, you should be very comfortable doing Bhastrika. It should be so comfortable you can do it all day, okay? Once you've achieved that, then you begin to add retention. So in retention, my routine is I do about an hour at a time of Bhastrika with retention. And my rounds are about 5 minutes. So I'll do about 3 to 4 minutes of and then after 3 or 4 minutes, I inhale deeply, exhale. I do about three deep 3-part breaths. And on the third one, inhale, lock. To lock here, you pull back and up towards the sternum. And then you lock the anal and the perineum. It's like when you try to stop your urine, right? You're tightening that up. The point of that, as you see, is to prevent the prana from going down here into the uterus, which could cause the uterus to prolapse, by the way. That's how strong prana is. So again, try not to move the body. The body should be completely relaxed. If you can, if you're tense, do more Hatha Yoga before you start doing this. If you have any tensions or stuff in the body, do more Hatha Yoga. Because when you do prana, you should be completely relaxed. The body should be a vessel. You shouldn't be tensing it. Look at Mother Nature. Mother Nature is always still. Still. When the wind comes, she's flexible and she bends with it. And then once it's done, still. That's what we should be trying to do. Keep everything still. The mind still. The body still. That is the goal of yoga. Stillness. Because in stillness, you're stable. Your mind is still. Then that mind can adequately reflect your divine nature. And it becomes much easier to understand this once you have seen and have experienced your divine nature. It comes, and you do that through the mind. Okay? So, try to work up to about a minute of retention. Work up, but again, no straining. If you can only do a few seconds, fine. No straining. You got to build up. Slowly build up. Okay, you got to get used to this. This is a very powerful force. It's those 4 forces of nature. It's a very powerful force. You have to gradually build up. Once you've gone to a minute, go further. I'm doing about 1.5 minutes now to 2 minutes. So my routine is an hour. My rounds take 5 minutes. Total round would be, I keep doing Bhastrika, and then after 4 minutes or so, I will do retention for 1 to 2 minutes, and then I will go on to another round. But you should build up to that. You might want to start off with just 50. 1, 2, 3, 50. Once you feel comfortable. Once you feel comfortable, then try adding a little retention. Inhale. Don't forget to lock this. Lock it. This is very important. All the locks are important. Like I said, if you do not lock this, the prana can force the uterus to prolapse. Make sure that this is down, because if you don't and some prana escapes, you're going to have ringing in your ears and a lot of ear trouble. Okay, like I said, this is a powerful force. All right. Now, hypertension. If this practice is done correctly, it shouldn't bother your hypertension. It shouldn't bother glaucoma, hypertension, heart disease. The only reason why it would be a problem is if you're tensing, okay? Because hypertension is hypertension. It's a result of tension. Okay. So, if you have hypertension, though, it shouldn't cause a problem. But they say not to be very careful. Yes, because when you're learning how to do this, and especially if you're tensing with your shoulders and everything, you're causing more tension. So if there's this tension in the body, work on the Hatha Yoga first. And start doing pranayama and continue it only if you're comfortable and it does not increase tension or hypertension or breathlessness, or you'll know because you'll get dizzy. You'll feel lightheaded. I've never had any of the experiences. I also have glaucoma, which is hypertension of the eyes. My eyes are all stable. I've never had any problem doing it, and I've done it for an hour at 10 speeds, and I've never had, because I'm relaxed. So it shouldn't be a problem, but if you have heart disease, if you have high blood pressure, if you have glaucoma, if you have hypertension, you must be careful. It's not that the practice can further cause trouble with these illnesses. It's just if you're not doing it correctly, you could end up with more problems because the body must be relaxed. Okay? So I'm just going to demonstrate a round of what I do. So I usually start off taking a couple of deep 3-part breaths. And deep part breaths, you want to go fill up. A lot of people don't even breathe right. And then exhale. And usually on the 3rd inhalation, I begin. Three more deep breaths. And on the 3rd inhalation, I begin again. Okay, I do it for about an hour. Now note that I started off with Kapalabhati. See the difference? Now, when to do this? Well, first thing in the morning, the Brahma Muhurta time, which is actually half an hour before sunrise. They say between 4 and 7, but it's actually a half an hour before sunrise. Because as soon as that sun hits the horizon, there's a flood of prana that happens because of that. So that is a very, very beneficial time to increase prana, to do your pranayama first thing in the morning. Always on an empty stomach. As you can see, you can't really pump like that if you've got food in your stomach. So always on an empty stomach. You can drink water, but always on an empty stomach. And then the other time that I think is critical is after your Hatha Yoga session. Because in Hatha Yoga, we are squeezing, twisting, squeezing. So we are breaking up those granthis, those knots, right? And most of the pollution in our body and the toxins, once you've done that, squeeze and the organs, when you're doing twists, you're squeezing the liver, right? And that gets pumped into the bloodstream. And a lot of toxins end up in the lungs. So it's true. This is why there's so much lung cancer. Lung cancer is the #1 killer in Canada. I think it's the #1 killer all over the world, even if you don't smoke, right? That's why it's insane if you smoke. Don't be stupid. You cannot smoke today. There's too much pollution. Depends where you live, of course, but so once you've done your Hatha Yoga and you've been twisting and squeezing and all that's going into the bloodstream, it'll end up in the lungs. Then you want to blow it out. See, so after the Hatha Yoga session, first thing in the morning, these practices, of course, can be done before meditation. I think alternate nostril breathing is much better before meditation. I sometimes do, I won't do an hour of this before meditation, but I will do some of this before meditation, and I do 15 minutes of, because it's much more, it's the equalizer breath, right? It equalizes the flows of energy between the left and right brain, and it brings more balance between those hemispheres, and it brings more balance between your male and female. I don't understand transgender. I understand homosexuality. I get that because, love is love, and you can love a man if you're a man, and you can love a woman if you're a woman. I mean, everybody has different tastes, right? But I don't understand transgender. I just don't understand. If you want to be more of a woman, get into your right brain. That's the feminine. If you want to be more of a man, get into your left brain. You don't need to go and cut up your body. The feminine is not about hair and makeup, right? It's just not. I can understand wanting to change your gender about 100 years ago because women, gosh, they couldn't even work and do anything because they were women. George Sands was a woman and she changed her name to a man and dressed like a man because she wanted to be a writer. So I can get if you wanted to change your gender 100 or 200 years ago because only as a man could you do anything. But I don't get it today because you can do anything you want. You're a man, you want to wear a dress, go wear a dress. We don't care. People will look at you as if you're strange, but who isn't strange today, right? I don't get it. I think really we have to accept what God has given us, right? If I was a man, okay. If I was a woman, okay. I don't really care. I can be a man. A lot of guys think I'm like a guy. I'm not gay, but I have that male and female energy and I can play with it. I don't feel I got to go and cut up my body to prove anything. So the other thing is I think that in transgender, it's true. I think if you're given a female body, I think probably you've had enough experience as a male. And you need that feminine to balance out this male and female. Because unless you balance out this male and female and bring it together, you're not going to get to the higher levels, because in the higher levels there's no male and female. So you have to balance out this male and female. So if you've been made a man and you don't feel like you're a man, maybe you're probably right. You were probably more of a woman, but it's now time to get into that male energy. Just get into it. Get into it. If you want to do the things that women do, do them. That's the beauty of today. At least today, women can do what men do, and men can do what women do, except they can't have babies. Lucky them. But anyway, it's all about balance. If you have any questions about this practice, again, please email me. Like I said, I don't really know what is a better way of doing this, because this pumping, it's only this flow. You got to get this flow going to reach all these, especially the brain and nadis. You got to get that flow going to improve the flow of prana in the body. So I don't know how there can be another way of doing it. You can do it mildly, medium, and with intense speeds, but there's not another way of doing it. So I'm trust in God. Namaste.